Welcome to Getting to the Table, understanding the 203K flow of events for an easy and enjoyable closing. We're very excited to have you here today and hope that the information we're going to provide to you will give you a comfort level that will allow you to consider exploring the 203K renovation consulting services for your next transaction as a buyer, a seller, or an agent. My name is Todd Miller. I'm the owner of HomeSpec Certified Inspections. I've been in business since 2010 and performed over 3,000 local area home inspections. I'm a graduate of the 203K in a Box FHA consultant training system. I'm a licensed 203K consultant, a Florida licensed home inspector, a certified master inspector, and a member of the National Association of FHA Consultants. So I'm going to talk to you about three phases of the 203 process today. The three phases will be before you sign the agreement, before ordering the appraisal, and before the first draw of the contractor after closing. When we talk about these three steps of the renovation process, I'm going to help you understand what your involvement should be as a real estate agent, lender, or client with the process of a 203K loan. Looking at this picture, you see a property that is not ready to be purchased. And I like to say that the 203K loan is a loan that allows a person to buy a home not ready to be sold, as this one was. This home sat empty for 13 years. So, what is phase one? Phase one is where you as the borrower or agent assisting the borrower need to establish what the goals are for the purchase of a property. Did you notice that I said the word borrower? That's because as a 203K consultant, I work with homeowners who are renovating the home they live in. Many times homeowners find it's cheaper to keep her. And actually, you can use a 203K loan to turn a current home into a wonderful home by either upsizing or downsizing. So it's important to clearly understand your plans, what your plans are for renovation, and understand what your margins are for adding repairs to any property purchase. This is where you want to reach out to your real estate lender and see what the maximum amount is you can borrow on a mortgage. As an example, if a home is being sold for $100,000 and you want to do a $40,000 renovation, a $150,000 mortgage is needed. Why? Well, because of different fees involved with the loan and the necessity to add a minimum 10% contingency fee to the loan to cover any unforeseen circumstances. And we will discuss the change order process later in the presentation. You also need to get a clear understanding of the condition of the home. What is the property like right now? How bad is this condition? And how does it compare to its neighbors' homes? When getting comparisons in the neighborhood, be sure to compare to the maximum comparable homes, not just the homes in its price range. So using the original example of a home being sold for $100,000, comps need to be researched for $150,000 homes in similar size and condition. And what's the most important step? Connect with an FHA 203K renovation consultant early in the process, and definitely before ordering any inspections. You will find that the consultant can provide any inspections needed and advise on what inspections are necessary and what are optional, saving you money in the process. This is an example of a consultant request form that HomeSpec Certified Inspections has on its website at homespecfl.com under the tab 203K Consultant. As much of this form that can be filled out would be appreciated. You can transmit this form to HomeSpec 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the faster your 203K consultant can get involved with the process, the more that we can help. So, I want to provide you with a flow of events to help you understand just why and when a borrower needs to use a renovation loan. You see, every property must meet FHA minimum property standards, and that's what the FHA appraiser will identify further down the line. But by having a 203K consultant who can inspect for minimum property standards, you can identify if the home has a lot of things that must be done, in which case one may not have a lot of room to do what you want to do. There are 3 different types of listings for repairs identified in a renovation mortgage. Mandatory items. Those are items that must be repaired. Those are items that are identified to protect both life and property. Recommended repairs. Those are items that the consultant will recommend to be conducted to further improve the quality or maintenance of the home. And then desired improvements. Those are things that you would like to see done to the home to make it yours. So if the property passes the minimum property standards inspection, that means you can move on to a conventional loan or a 203K loan with mostly desired improvements. If the property does not meet the MPS, that lets you know that at some point you will have to consider a renovation loan. HomeSpec can provide you with a home inspector and a home inspection report that will have a minimum property standards report added. It's important to understand that home inspectors do not inspect for minimum property standards. Home inspectors in Florida are held to the Florida SOP for home inspectors. This service by HomeSpec is an additional value-added service that HomeSpec will provide for a minimum fee. If you are using HomeSpec to do a feasibility inspection, an MPS inspection is included as part of that inspection. Now we move on to phase 2. You've identified that you want to use a 203K renovation loan. You've identified the property, and you've identified there's room in the mortgage for repairs. What do you need to do to submit your information to the lender, appraiser, and underwriter? The fastest way is with the assistance of a renovation 203K loan consultant. We can evaluate the property even if the utilities are not on. If the property is a short sale or REO, a consultant is definitely recommended, as the banks will not allow for repairs to be made prior to closing. Is there a private well or septic system on the property? If so, remember to get it inspected first. A failed septic can be over $5,000 in repair and can be a real issue. A 203K loan can be used for a septic replacement, and if that's the only thing that's required, no issue. Did you have a contractor evaluate the property? It's totally not necessary at this point in time, but if you did, please keep this in mind. The contractor is going to inspect that property to his standards of safety, not the federal government's, and certainly not to the minimum property standards. He may give you cost estimates for repairs, but he won't have the big picture. That's why you should have a 203K consultant in the loop as soon as you complete the sale, if not sooner. Once you're under contract, schedule the feasibility study with the home inspector. Most times both can be done with the same appointment. This will include mandatory, recommended, and desired repairs with the feasibility study and a complete home inspection. If you're doing a limited streamlined 203K loan, your consultant no longer needs to be involved. You can gather the bids, pick a contractor, and submit paperwork to the loan officer, appraiser, and underwriter on your own. These are things the consultant can do for you, but are not required to. However, keep in mind, this is only if the repairs for the renovation are under $32,000. Over $35,000 is considered a full 203K loan. So now, if you are moving forward with a 203K consultant, or even if not, you still need to get contractor bids. So you can see the optimum timelines to get you to the table fast. Once you get the final bids, the final work write-ups can be completed and submitted to the underwriter, who will order an appraisal and move you on to the actual closing of your loan. So let's look at the process so far, from start to finish on a 203K project. Once you identified what the feasibility requirements are for the 203K loans and had the consultant create your contractor bid, the next step can be for you to move forward with the 203K streamline. The way you do that is if the repairs are less than $32,000. Now I know you might be wondering that this says up to $35,000. Well, remember that contingency fee we talked about earlier? It must be placed in these bids at a minimum of 10%. So that limits you to $32,500. But remember, the contingency is a good thing. It protects against unforeseen damage, and once walls are opened up, it's anyone's guess. If it's over $32,000, the consultant will assist you with helping to identify the contractors, and after you choose the winning bid, produce the final work write-up. The consultant will then give the work write-up to your lender, and now you can move forward with the closing of your loan. And now we move on to Phase 3. Phase 3 is the post-close draw process. It's actually the most fun part for you as the potential home buyer, because now the renovation begins. The most important part of Phase 3 is establishing synergy for success. And as you can see from the chart, the 203K consultant is a very important part of that linchpin of bringing the borrower, the mortgage holder, and the contractor together. The relationship between the consultant and the other parties is critical to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Parameters and requirements of the process must be clearly defined for the contractor and the borrower before work begins. That's the responsibility of the 203K consultant. The consultant must communicate effectively with the loan officer and the disbursement officer, the contractor, and the borrower. If there is any need to do any kind of changes, it will be up to the contractor to bring this to the consultant's attention prior to starting those changes to ensure that A, those changes are necessary, and B, the costs are reasonable for the scope of work to be performed. The consultant will share that information with the lender to be sure that they are on board with the changes and that they agree with the scope of work. Borrowers, it's important for you to be calm and patient during this process. This takes time. Even small projects can take some time to get completed correctly. Now a note, the consultant only visits the property usually every 30 days to inspect the work. So keeping him in the loop is important. So now I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of fun. Remember this home? We showed you this slide at the beginning of the slideshow. It hadn't been lived in for 15 years and it was in pretty sad shape. Well, here it is now. It's currently being lived in. It was a Baltimore area property. The owners are very, very happy with their renovation project, and of course so are the neighbors.